Have you ever had a conversation with someone that left you feeling like your soul just took a beating? Like all you did was talk, but somehow, by the time you walked away, it felt like you just run a marathon in your mind? That drained, foggy, almost sick feeling? That's not random. That's not just social fatigue. That's someone feeding off your energy. And not in a spiritual, crystal-waving way. Number. This is real. Carl Jung, one of the most brilliant minds in psychology, knew exactly what was happening, and he tried to warn us, but most of us weren't listening. Maybe we just didn't want to hear it. See, Jung talked about something called psychic energy, and no, it's not magic. He wasn't talking about chakras or some invisible aura. Psychic energy, or libido as he called it, was the fuel of your entire psychological life, not just sexual energy like Freud claimed. This was your drive, your passion, your mental clarity, your creativity, your ability to connect, to care, to even wake up with purpose. That energy, it's limited. You don't have an endless supply. And the scariest part, some people are really, really good at stealing it. They're not always evil. Most of them aren't even aware they're doing it. But whether it's your overly needy friend, your toxic boss, or even someone in your own family, you've probably met at least one person who drains you without lifting a finger. Jung called them archetypes. We call them energy vampires. And once you start to see them, you'll never look at your relationships the same way again. Let's break down a few of the biggest energy drainers you've probably already encountered. First, there's the perpetual victim. This person turns every moment into a tragedy. Every conversation becomes a therapy session you never signed up for. They don't want advice. They want sympathy. They want you to feel bad for them so they can feed off your emotional labor. You walk away from them feeling heavier, not because you care too much, but because they offloaded all their weight onto you. And the worst part, they don't even thank you for carrying it. Then you've got the narcissistic controller. This one's harder to spot, because they often look like leaders, mentors, or successful people. But behind that shiny surface is someone who's built their entire identity on needing your admiration, your attention, your submission. They don't really see you. They see what you can give them. If you've ever felt like your ideas are always dismissed, your boundaries always crossed, and somehow you're the crazy one for even speaking up, this is what Jung would have called an inflated persona. Someone who's so obsessed with their mask, they've lost all contact with their real self. And now, they need your energy to keep that mask from falling apart. Then there's the chronic projector. Jung talked a lot about projection, how people see in others what they refuse to see in themselves. But this person takes that idea and makes it their entire personality. They call you selfish while using you. They call you lazy while doing the bare minimum. They pick apart your choices while their life's a mess. And you're stuck defending yourself for things that aren't even yours to own. Every second you spend justifying yourself to them is energy wasted. And the truth is, they're not arguing with you. They're arguing with the parts of themselves they're too scared to face. But this goes even deeper. It's not just the personalities that drain us. Jung wanted us to understand how they do it. One of the biggest ways is through what he called complexes. Think of them as psychological buttons, little emotional landmines built from past wounds, fears, and beliefs. Most people walk around with these buttons exposed, and energy vampires are masters at finding them. They know what to say, how to say it, and when to say it to trigger a reaction. They poke your insecurities, stir your doubts, and manipulate your emotions, all while acting innocent. And the more you react, the more energy they drain. There's also something called emotional contagion. It's when someone's mood rubs off on you. You don't even notice it happening. You're just hanging out with a friend who's anxious, and suddenly you're anxious. You talk to a person who's bitter or angry, and afterward you feel tense, agitated, for no reason. That's your nervous system mirroring theirs. You literally catch their emotion. Now imagine spending hours a week with people who constantly carry those emotional viruses. That's a guaranteed way to drain your psychic energy without realizing it. But maybe the biggest red flag of all? The absence of reciprocity. In a healthy relationship, energy flows both ways. You give, you receive, you listen, you're heard, you support, you're supported. But with energy vampires, it's a one-way street. They take and take and take, and you keep giving, convincing yourself that one day they'll return the favor. But they don't. Because they're not built for reciprocity. They're built for survival. And that survival depends on your exhaustion. So, why do they do it? Why are some people built this way? Jung would say it all starts with psychological wounds. A lot of these energy-draining patterns were born out of survival. If someone grew up in an environment where the only way to get love or attention was to play the victim, or explode with emotion, or control everyone around them, they adapted. They learned to take energy from others because they never learned how to generate it within themselves. And while that explains it, it doesn't excuse it. Jung was clear. Just because you understand someone's trauma doesn't mean you have to be their emotional punching bag. You can be compassionate and still protect yourself. That's where the shadow self comes in. Jung believed every person has a shadow, the part of you that you reject, suppress, deny, the parts of yourself you pretend don't exist. When someone refuses to acknowledge their shadow, it doesn't disappear. It just leaks out in toxic ways. They start projecting it onto others, stirring drama, creating chaos, feeding off reactions. These people can't create energy from healthy things like purpose, creativity, or self-reflection. So they steal it from your reactions. Every argument, every fight, every emotional spiral you get sucked into, that's food for them. And here's the kicker. Every time you try to prove them wrong, you're actually fueling the very thing you're trying to escape. This is what happens when individuation goes wrong. Individuation is Jung's idea of becoming whole, integrating every part of yourself so you're not at war internally. But when someone gets stuck in their growth, when they refuse to evolve, they become bitter. And bitter people don't want to see others grow. They can't celebrate your wins. Your progress makes them uncomfortable because it reminds them of how stagnant they are. So they do what they can to bring you down to their level by mocking your goals, dismissing your dreams, or just draining you until you don't have the energy to keep going. Have you ever noticed how certain relationships suddenly feel strained the moment you start doing better? That's not an accident. That's a psychic alarm going off. Jung would say your success is threatening their stunted self-image, and they'll subconsciously try to pull you back into the same dark space they're stuck in. So, how do you know when your energy's under attack? Jung actually gave us warning signs, psychic red flags that something's off. First is chronic fatigue after interactions. If you constantly feel wiped out after talking to someone, like your body needs a nap and your brain needs a reboot, that's not just you being tired. That's your nervous system saying, this person is taking too much. And you can't afford to ignore that. Keep track of how you feel before and after seeing certain people. If a quick chat leaves you mentally foggy or emotionally numb, your energy is being drained. Next is confusion and brain fog. Manipulative people often speak in a way that scrambles your thoughts. You walk away from conversations second-guessing everything. You feel like you're going crazy, like maybe you misunderstood, maybe you overreacted. That confusion is a tactic, conscious or not. It eats at your clarity and erodes your self-trust. Jung would say it's a symptom of psychic manipulation, one that keeps you off balance and easier to control. Then there's boundary violations, repeated ones. These people don't respect your no. They push, they guilt trip, they gaslight you into saying yes when you really mean no. They treat your time and energy like it's theirs to take. But here's what most people miss. Boundaries aren't just rules, they're energetic gates. When someone crosses them, they're trespassing on your psyche. Every ignored boundary is another hole punched into your energy shield. Another sign? Delayed emotional reactions. This one's sneaky. You think everything's fine after an interaction, but a few hours later, you're randomly angry, anxious, or deeply sad. That's your subconscious finally processing what happened. It takes a while to catch up because your conscious mind was too busy trying to stay polite or keep the peace. But once it relaxes, the damage bubbles up. These delayed waves of emotion, they're proof something deeper got disturbed. And that disturbance always costs you energy. Now, if all this sounds intense, that's because it is. But Jung didn't just tell us to recognize these energy vampires. He gave us tools to defend ourselves. And the first tool is conscious awareness. Simply noticing is half the battle. Most people don't realize what's happening until they're already drained. But if you start checking in with your energy levels before, during, and after interactions, you begin to wake up. You stop just reacting and start observing. And the moment you become conscious of a pattern, you can interrupt it. You can take your power back. Next comes energetic boundaries. This isn't just about avoiding certain people or saying no louder. Jung believed real boundaries start inside. It's about protecting your internal space, your thoughts, your emotions, your focus. Visualization techniques, breathing practices, mental resets. These aren't woo-woo ideas, they're tools. Before walking into a tough conversation, imagine a shield around you. During the interaction, ground yourself with slow, steady breathing. If you start to feel drained, mentally step back. Pause, breathe, regain your center. That's how you stop people from hijacking your energy. Most people walk into every interaction wide open and defenseless. That ends now. Sometimes, though, the only real solution is strategic disengagement. Jung wasn't a fan of cutting people off just to feel powerful, but he understood this. Some relationships can't be healed, only escaped. If someone consistently drains you, ignores your boundaries, or triggers your complexes, you may need to quietly back away. Not every goodbye needs to be dramatic. You don't owe everyone a speech, just start giving less, responding less, and turning your energy toward people and spaces that fill you, not empty you. That's not cruelty, that's survival. But Jung also believed the most powerful defense isn't outside, it's within. He called it integration work. The more whole you are, the fewer cracks you leave for others to crawl through. Do the inner work. Face your fears. Unpack your complexes. Make peace with your shadow. Because once you've accepted the parts of yourself you used to hide, no one can use them against you. That's the ultimate protection. When you're internally stable, energy vampires can't feed on your reactivity. You stop being a battery for other people's emotional chaos. Now, let's talk recovery. Let's say you've already been drained. How do you refill? Jung had answers for that too. Creative expression was at the top of the list. When you create, whether it's painting, journaling, dancing, cooking, you regenerate psychic energy. You're pulling from the unconscious and bringing something new into the world. That's not just art, that's repair. Every brushstroke, every word, every melody you make reclaims a piece of you that was lost in someone else's storm. Then there's nature. Jung loved nature, not because it's pretty, but because it's healing. Nature doesn't want anything from you. It doesn't judge, interrupt, or drain. It lets you be. The trees don't ask questions, the ocean doesn't gaslight. And in that stillness, your nervous system finds its rhythm again. That's where real energy recovery happens. So, ask yourself, how much time do you spend in nature compared to social media, texts, meetings, and mindless noise? Speaking of the unconscious, Jung's method of active imagination is one of the most powerful tools for energy reclamation. It's not passive daydreaming. It's a focused dive into the imagery and symbols that live in your psyche. You close your eyes, let the images come, and interact with them. Talk to the shadow. Ask the angry voice what it wants. Explore the dream figure that won't go away. It's raw, uncomfortable, and often strange. But Jung used this himself to recover energy that was trapped in the unconscious. You can too. It's not about escaping reality. It's about unlocking the power hiding underneath it. Jung also emphasized ritual and symbolism, little actions that carry deep meaning. Washing your hands after a draining phone call, lighting a candle before a tough conversation, carrying an object that reminds you of your strength. These aren't superstitions, they're psychological anchors. They help your psyche know, this is over, I'm safe, I'm protected. And those signals matter. They prevent you from carrying emotional debris into the rest of your life. But Jung didn't stop at individuals. He zoomed out and saw how entire societies drain us. Social media? He would have called it a psychic black hole. Constant outrage, endless comparison, other people's projections hitting you every second, and worst of all, you think you're relaxing. But afterward, you're numb, anxious, tired, and you don't even know why. Jung would say you're feeding your energy to a machine that gives nothing back. It's engineered energy theft, one scroll at a time. Hustle culture, even worse. We glorify burnout. We wear exhaustion like a badge of honor. We overwork to the point of collapse and call it ambition. But Jung would see it clearly. This is the inflated persona at its peak, a society over-identified with doing and productivity while totally disconnected from meaning, soul, and self. And in the end, you're left depleted, not because you weren't strong enough, but because the entire system is designed to extract your energy and leave you hollow. So, what would Jung actually recommend? He'd say, start individuating, not just for your soul, but for your energy. The more integrated you become, the less energy you waste fighting yourself. No more battling inner contradictions. No more hiding your true self. You become congruent. And that frees up enormous psychic energy. Energy you didn't even know was being spent holding yourself together. He'd also say, build real community. Not just social circles. Authentic community. People who respect your boundaries. People who energize you by being in alignment with who you are. Reciprocity. Respect. Shared values. Those relationships feed you. They don't drain you. And finally, he'd tell you, live symbolically. Don't just move through life doing the same things every day without meaning. Look deeper. See the patterns. Feel the symbolism in your actions. Make the mundane sacred. Because when you live with symbolic awareness, everything becomes more charged, more meaningful, and that meaning generates energy. That's what Jung called the symbolic life, and it's how you stop surviving and start living. Look, energy vampires aren't going anywhere, but you don't have to be their power source. You don't have to keep giving away your life force just to maintain broken relationships, false peace, or cultural approval. Every single day, with every single interaction, you're making a choice. You're either protecting and generating your psychic energy, or you're bleeding it out to people and systems that don't deserve it. So start today. Pay attention. Protect your energy like your life depends on it, because it does. Without energy, there is no creativity, no clarity, no love, no you. Jung saw this decades ago. Now you see it too. Don't ignore it. Take your energy back, and never give it away so easily again.